from where we really. In 2007, of course, President Olusegun Obasanjo brought a national railway modernization plan in conjunction with CCACC, which has since been well modified and all of that. He started the Abuja-Kaduna rail
line.
That
Yes.
was the first one.
Yes.
He started that. It was supposed to have been completed around 2011, 2012. Of course, it was not. It was delayed up until the point President Muhammadu Buhari took over in 2015. We completed it in 2016, but we got it at about 80%. We completed that. Then we moved on to another rail line that had been abandoned since 1987, which was the Warri-Itakpe-Ajaokuta high-speed line, 326 kilometers. And we massively invested in that, built railway stations across the corridor, finished the actual rail line itself, and then, of course, opened that for commencement of operations in 2019. So that's on, and everybody's enjoying that in that region. Now, you had in the West a new construction. I think earlier you said rehabilitated. This was not a rehabilitation or reconstruction. This was a brand new construction from scratch. The Lagos-Abeokuta-Ibadan high-speed rail line, which we even further extended, which was not part of Obasanjo's plan. We extended it into our Papa ports so that we could very intentionally decongest the nation's ports, decongest even the roads around the ports, so that we can get more efficient and more expeditious movement of our containers in and out of the ports to facilitate import and export flows for the sake of the larger goal of attracting foreign direct investment in the country. So that has now been achieved. We started construction on the Lagos-Ibadan high-speed line 2017. There was nothing on the ground before 2017. We completed the line 2020. This year, we're completing all of the stations, so it'll be totally done, and we're moving on to the Ibadan to Kano leg this year. Now, moving on to the east, the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri line has been one of those lines that we've really been looking at, okay, what is really the best option here? Because what the president initially wanted to do very much was to take the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri existing line and really transform it entirely into a standard gauge line, which is basically to create new lines all the way. That's 1,400 plus kilometers of new line.
Of tracks,
the problem that came up was inevitably financing because of the sheer length of that particular corridor from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri at 1,400 plus kilometers. It would have cost us $14 billion, not naira, to complete that line if we were going to do standard gauge, which is why we were basically priced out of doing standard gauge along the entire axis. So that's why we now said, okay, because of affordability, let's now take $3 billion, reconstruct the entire line, and bring about the most effective, the fastest possible narrow gauge available, so that at least we can have a proper standard railway line running across the entire the southeast, middle belt into the northeast with its requisite benefits. And then on top of that, okay, no, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, like you said, it's the reconstruction project. So what that means that the lines, the rail lines which have either been underused or not even being used at all, looking at Owerri, Imo, and Damaturu, right? They're all going to be reconstructed. So these lines are already there, but they've just not been functioning. So that's what's going to happen with this project. We need to be very clear.
Let me be very clear. Let me be very clear about how this works. The rail line, it is not that they are being underused or they're not. It's not enough to say that they're not working. They are totally unworkable, meaning that it's not even a situation where you're doing light maintenance works or something like that to get them to work. If you see what is going on, you will see metal rails pulled up out of the ground. Some communities across that entire axis have literally over the decades of non-usage have literally pulled the metal out of the ground and used them for whatever it is they wanted to use them for. So you're talking about a rail line that is absolutely to the depths of moribund. So now that's number one. Number two, in 2012, there was an attempt to quote-unquote rehabilitate Port Harcourt-Maiduguri line under the subsidy reassessment scheme known as SHORE-P under the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan. Of course, Premium Times had since then, and anybody can go and Google this, they've since then done a very elaborate expose on what happened to the SHORE-P program on the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri line, sitting down and doing nothing because money was siphoned away on the same project. What we're going to do is we're going to work out a financing arrangement with the Chinese that is favorable to Nigeria and favorable to the Chinese. How does this work? Number one, the Chinese government under CCCC, which of course has assisted us and done very well to do the Lagos high-speed rail line and others, they are now stepping in to do this particular rail line. So you have one contractor instead of a ton of subcontractors to these briefcase companies. We're doing one contractor, a quality contractor that is tested. Then secondly, the loan, the way that it is financed, it is going to be done on the basis of an 85-15 arrangement, similar to what we've done with the other rail lines, where we bring 50% of the counterpart fund up front, then they now bring 85%. But the most important thing is they give us the most favorable loan terms we can get anywhere in the world, and that is not an exaggeration. They give us a tenor of, for those who don't know, that's the life of the loan, of about 20 years. And moratorium, for those who don't know, is the period in which you have that will elapse before you have to begin repayment. And moratorium of about 7 years, meaning that the construction period is 3 years, it's 36 months, beginning and finish, 36 months. Then you have 4 years after the completion where you will now begin to actually yield the recoup on the investment
on this
before you now begin the repayment. And then the third and most important aspect is the interest rate. They're giving us between 0.5% and 3% interest rate. If you go anywhere else in the world, if you want to go to the international bond market and you want to take Eurobond, they're giving you stuff on 8%. If you want to go to the Western sources, they're giving you between 7 and 11%. If you want to come to the domestic sources in Nigeria, you're going to borrow locally. You're looking at between 10 and 17%. So when we're talking about debt servicing payments moving forward into the future, this is the most economical way to go for the sake of the Nigerian economy and sustainability of whatever it is that we're borrowing. And I think the last point here is that on top of the issues of finance, people have the impression that Nigeria is being sold to China. And I want to be very clear about what the facts are so that people can go themselves and verify, not just to take my word for it.
Okay.
Go to tmo.gov.ng, that is the Debt Management Office website. You'll find that less than 10% of our national debt is China-related or China-linked, less than 10%. And this is on a national debt that is beneath 22% debt to GDP ratio, which is amongst the lowest in the world. Even the IMF and World Bank have come out to say that, indeed, Nigeria does not have anything like debt crisis. What we do have is a revenue crunch, meaning we're not raising enough money
funds,
for taxes, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. All right, so Ajiri.
Yes, please.
All right, so now the duration, because that's the first thing on a lot of minds of Nigerians, particularly Rivers people, is the duration, the estimated duration of this project. From your report, it's meant to last 36 months, 3 years. Now, we do know that construction timeframes are never accurate. In fact, stats have it as much as 75 to 85% of construction stats or estimated time of delivery don't meet their targets, plus or minus a few months or years, depending on whatever prevailing circumstances that there are. Now, as with most concerns, the problem here is if this rail reconstruction is meant to last 3 years, what happens if it lasts longer? Because it's going to cost more. And if it's going to cost more, financing will obviously come into the equation. Is there a plan to mitigate this occurrence? Because once again, delivery on projects has been a big issue, not just here in Nigeria, but world over. But Nigerians are particularly worried that so many projects are started and don't get delivered. It doesn't matter if it's this government or in the previous governments.
Yes, thank you very much, Jude, for raising this issue. First of all, let me just say that I think there are two notions that you had slipped into your observation that I think are understandably incorrect. What I mean by understandably incorrect is that it's understandable that you refer to these two issues because these are historical issues, but they're incorrect because they don't apply now, and I'll be very clear about what I'm talking about. On the issue of timelines, we have been very, very clear about the projects we're doing and about the timelines on those projects. And I'll be very clear about what I'm saying. If you look at, for example, the Boni Border Road, we've been very, very clear with our people that 2022 is the deadline on Bonibodo Road. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, rail line. We promised our people that by 2020 that railway network will be completed for operation. In 2020 it was completed for operation. The second Niger Bridge, we have said 2022 is the deadline. Next year it will be done. We're going to be held to that. The Lagos-Shagamu-Ibadan Expressway, not the rail line, the road that we have expanded and totally reconstructed, that is going to be completed next year. We're ensuring that people hold us to that promise. My point here is that on all the projects that we have put out, we have put very specific timelines on them so that we can win back the trust of the Nigerian people that have been lost over decades of failed leadership. I want to just point out something very critical. You also raised the issue of funding, that contract variations, that it can change and it's not done on time and all of that. You see, because this is done on the basis of an agreement between the two parties, and because it is fully paid up front, so you have a situation where 15% counterpart fund is being paid by the Nigerian government, 85% fund is being paid by China Exim Bank, right? That's 100% of the money. It is being paid up front for a timeline. So you say, okay, this project is 3 years. I'm giving you all your money, everything up front. It's right there in your hand, right? Your own now is not about saying, when you talk about contract variation and how did you change this and now you have to find more money because the things were not done on time. Why was it not done on time? That is the question. And the answer is because of the very complex procurement process we have in the country, and of course the way in which we have managed public procurement in the country, where is a House committee on this, Senate committee on this, MDA bureaucrats and all of that are trying to get their hands on the money as it's going through the process and all of that. So by the time you now have that, projects are not being done on time, they're not being done at a high quality and all of that. That is why when we're now dealing with the Chinese with this now, they are literally being paid up front. So nobody can grab their money. It is not possible because the money is released from the Ministry of Finance. It's not released from the budget, as it were, of say some of these MDAs and all of that, how it's done. Usually they're paid 100% up front. So the whole thing now is about just getting the job done. And because nobody is coming in to be putting their hands all over that money because of the restrictions that President Muhammadu Buhari has put on those funds, they've been able to now get these things done. Lagos-Ibadan rail line is a perfect example. If we had gone through the normal procurement processes, that where different actors are trying to get their hands on loan money as we've had it in the past, what we would have had is a repeat of Abuja-Kaduna rail line, where it was approved 2007 under Obasanjo. It was supposed to be completed 2011, 2012. It was not completed until 2016 because the people who are accessing the road were stealing the money, diverting the money, and now they're in court today. So the point here is that when you're serious about doing what you're supposed to do, you get it done, and there are no excuses. The Lagos-Ibadan line is almost the same length, the same specification as the Abuja-Kaduna line. It took them 9 years to complete that line. It took us 3 years to do our own. The difference is clear. So our own, when we say that we're dealing with the Port Harcourt category, when we say 3 years, we have the assurance it will be done within the timeline because we have paid out what we're supposed to pay out to the people we're supposed to pay to. Okay. And it's as simple as that.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, whilst you reply with some of these comments, once again, and notice that I've not started taking calls yet. Calls are coming through. We'll do our best to answer, take some of these calls and ask you questions. But apart from the timeline, Mr. Ajuri, then we talk about the management of this rail line. So it's one thing to have an infrastructure either reconstructed or created. The next question is the maintenance. And looking at the long-term maintenance, we've seen PPPs across the country being established on several sectors, whether it's building a bridge or building some, having some buildings erected, or even pipelines or whatever. You know, at some point in time, the government comes and says, okay, let's have a PPP partnership so that, you know, the people are responsible somewhat in the maintenance of this infrastructure. What's the plan for this rail line? And after this, we're going to get to talk about the deep sea, the Bonny Deep Sea, which is a very big one. And if you're just joining us this morning, Ajiri Ngelale is my guest this morning, SSA to the president. So we're talking about the flagging off of the rail line, railway construction between Port Harcourt and Maiduguri, and also the deep sea, which is going to be, I am very sure, the most heated conversation yet. So Ajiri, let's get straight very quickly, 1 minute. How is this going to be maintained?
Yes, thank you very much. See, there are really multiple elements. I wish I had more than 1 minute before we take calls, because really it's important for people to understand. I haven't even talked about the design and how the line actually works. But let me just say that obviously maintenance is very critical. That is why not only have we ensured, before now, what you would have is a situation where rail lines, when Chief Obasanjo conceptualized the railway plan, he conceptualized it as basically an alternative form of civilian transportation.
Yeah.
That meaning it was meant really just to move human beings from one point to another point. The president now came in and said, look, that's really not the wise strategy in terms of President Buhari saying, look, we have to make this economically viable, because yes, it's good that people will be comfortable. Yes, we also have an interest in that. That's good. But when you're talking about repaying loans, you're not going to repay a $2 loan or whatever it is with tickets from human beings. That's not how you're going to pay back the loan. Okay. How you're going to pay back the loan is by moving tonnage every single day. You're moving economic goods and services across that line in a way that people are paying serious money to move their items on the rail line for efficiency, the expeditious rate of movement and all of that. That is how you repay loans, and that is how you invest well. So that is why the president changed the design, moved it into a proper port. In the south-south, the Wari Itakpe Ajaokuta line, which had it did not envision at all any link to any port. The president said, no, that's not good enough. We're going to construct a new seaport in Wari, which we signed the contract for. Then we're going to now create an extension link of the existing Wari Itakpe Ajaokuta line into that new Wari seaport, so that we will have another port that we have opened up. That's number two. The third one now is the new deep sea port. This particular Port Harcourt Maiduguri line obviously encompasses a $700 million investment in a deep sea port in Bonny, which is obviously strategic because this is the gas production hub of the country, NRNG headquarters. You're going to be able to move those gas products now by rail or by road, because this administration under President Muhammadu Buhari is constructing the Bonny-Bodo Road, $120 billion. That's going to be completed next year. The people in that axis have already seen the new bridges that are coming up across that axis. So all of this is being done in a synergized manner to achieve a deliberate economic end. That was not the case in the beginning. That is not how it was first designed. So you have that. Now, moving from the Bonny Deep Sea Port, the rail line will now move into Port Harcourt City Center, where we now are constructing this $240 billion industrial park, which is extremely significant. Why is it? It is not just for the sake of saying we have an industrial park. It is because that is where we are now going to focus local content in indigenous manufacturing, mass manufacturing and fabrication of very high-value oil and gas project component parts, which before now we would have had to spend huge forex on importing from Singapore, South Korea, or China, or Japan. We're now going to be able to produce those things, create the wealth, create the jobs, create the enterprise there in Port Harcourt. From that Port Harcourt Industrial Park, you're now moving into Aba, and all of us know what Aba used to be in the glory days. Imagine if we can unlock the massive commercial fabrication and manufacturing potential of Aba once again, as it connects all of the southeast capitals. The president added to the initial design, it was not part of the colonial design, the current capitals of all the southeast states, that's Oka, Enugu, Abakaliki, of course, Owerri, and of course, with the exception of Aba, because it's not Ogbua here, but it's Aba. So all of these capitals are now going to be joined with new expansions, new spur lines that were not part of the original design, to ensure that every southeast capital has a rail station along this corridor as it moves up to the middle belt into the northeast. And the very strategic thing the president has done, I need to add this, is that this particular line, he's now added a spur line once it gets to Benue Jos axis, Nasarawa axis. From Nasarawa, you're now going to have a spur line that is going to connect from Nasarawa to Abuja. So now Abuja is going to be the link between the Eastern Corridor line of Port Harcourt to Maiduguri on the Eastern Corridor to the Lagos Ibadan Southwest capitals to Ilorin, from Ilorin to Mina, from Mina to Abuja, Abuja up to Kaduna, Kaduna up to Kano. You now have the meeting point between East and Western corridors in Abuja. And then the beauty of it is that right under that, you now have a spur line to Lokoja, which links you to Ajaokuta, Itakpe, and the new wireless seaport. All of this is being,
worked out. Okay.
And executed by President Muhammadu Buhari.
All right, so with all of these stops in the system, that should help keep the line. Now, we're going to go for a quick commercial break. We have an advert to take. I'm going to ask you, Ajiri, to hold on. When we come back, we're going to open the phone lines, and we're going to talk just a little bit about this the Bonny Deep Sea port, which has been in contention for many a year. My guest this morning, Ajiri Ngelale. This is the Media Dialogue right here on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Ajiri, please stay on the line.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817 001 8162. That is 0817 001 8162. And let us connect you to your customers.
We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info. We crossfire in the morning. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the station. Get into the midday dialogue and tell you about the hard facts, and then let's talk into the chat station. All for you on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
3 Nigeria Info. We have a lot to talk about, but not a lot of time to spare this morning. We're looking at the flag of the reconstruction of the Port Harcourt Maiduguri line, and also get into talk about the deep sea port. Yes, it's been one of the biggest issues many southerners have had in recent years. Yes, we do know that there is a port in Warri. We do also know that there is a port in Port Harcourt, hence the term Port Harcourt, but none of these have the capacity of a Lagos State, the Apapa Wharf or Apapa Port, which handles majority of the imports in this country. My guest is Ajuri Ngalale this morning. We're going to get straight to him as well. Now, I'm reading from this day paper. This was 2 days ago. The Bonny Deep Sea Port, right, will have a container terminal of about 500,000 tons. That's 20-foot equivalent unit per annum capacity, 100,000 deadweight tonnage. But the railway, that's talking about the Railway Industrial Park in Port Harcourt, would be supported by necessary infrastructure such as power, water, waste disposal, ICT, gas distribution, as well as transportation, logistics centers, and ancillaries. So it's a very, very complex and very extensive project being managed. Now, Mr. Ajuri, good morning once again.
Good morning to you, my brother.
All right. So now, recently, at about I think last week or was it 2 weeks ago, there was a very, very trendy picture and video that came up on social space, and it showed a barge carrying containers in the Lagos Apapa area that tipped over, and that particular incident brought many Nigerians to question, why are we stretching Lagos so thin? The Lagos port has been stretched thin, they say.
Yeah, I think first of all, anybody who is living in that axis knows the difference between what is going on there now and what was going on there for the last several decades. First of all, we have not just put in place the new trailer parks for the containerized trailers that move that have always been blocking Papa roads for decades now.
They're still blocking the roads, Ajuri. They're still blocking the road. They're still blocking the road.
Have you seen the recent reports? Have you seen the recent reports of people testifying to how roads getting home used to be 3 hours and now they're getting home in 20 minutes? That's a huge difference. Now, I'm not saying that there are no issues at all. There's no issues to clean up. There are two major aspects of what is happening at the Papa Port, and then the conversation is much more important than just the Papa Port, by the way.
Yes.
But the first thing is that we have put in place the new electronic haul-up system after we had completed these trailer parks, which did not exist before now. Secondly, we have put in place the Apapa Orosoke Tollgate Road, which Dangote is constructing under the agreement with Presidential Executive Order 007. We have an agreement with them where they bring 73 billion to reconstruct that road entirely. Then we pay them back in the form of calibrated tax relief so that we don't create revenue shocks for Nigeria, but we get the infrastructure up front. That's going to be completed by the end of this year. That will totally depressurize the roads around Papa Port.
Okay. So let's move.
The last point, very quickly, is that we have completed the extension of the Lagos-Ibadan railway into Apapa already. As I speak to you today, we're moving containers out of Apapa Port on the rail line for the first time. So when we talk about the issue of decongestion and depressurization and comparing what is happening now as against what is happening before, there's actually no place where the two scenarios meet.
Okay, so now all of this recent development is welcome. Like I said, a lot of Nigerians have become, and I also know from the Lagos Axis that people are still complaining. I agree with you, and then it's good to know that you also agree that yes, there's still issues needing to be sorted out. But let's come back. Let's come back. Let's leave Lagos. Let's come back to River State and to the south, Warri and Port Harcourt. So now we have the Bonny Deep Sea Port, all right, that is going to be worked on. Now, I don't know if you have the figures before you or if you have them by heart. How long is this project going to take?
My brother, when we say 3 years, we're talking about the entire project. We're not talking about just a rail line or just an industrial park or just this or just that. Nothing is in silo. When we say 3 years delivery, we're talking about the entire package of all of the infrastructural components. That is the deep sea port, that is the industrial park, that is the rail line, and all of the new rail stations across the rail line. Because in every single capital of the southeast, with the exception of Aba and Mumbai, you're going to have a new railway station built from scratch that did not exist before this deal. So that is how it works. So it's 3 years across the board. And I want to emphasize that this infrastructure is not. None of this is done just because a minister said, "I want to go and bless my state." No, this is all part of an economic master plan that President Muhammadu Buhari has masterminded and is implemented. And for us, what's very critical is that as we open our ports and we open our rail lines, the larger picture, which most people will not be able to see now, but the president does see, is that we are living in a very historic moment where we're moving into the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is going to bring about $3 trillion, not naira, $3 trillion new dollars to the African continent. Hundreds of millions of jobs will be created. The question for the foreign direct investors is about where are they going to site the industries of their factories. And we are competing right now with South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, Morocco, Egypt, and all of these other countries, some of which have gone very far ahead of us because of our decades of failure in terms of governance. So we have to put the infrastructure on ground, and we have to do it quickly, which is why the president is not just dealing with ports at once. He's dealing with ports, railways, airports, seaports, and all of these things. This year alone, we're opening up the new international airport terminal at Murtala Mohammed in Lagos. We're opening up the new one in Aminu Kano International Airport Terminal in Kano, and the new Kano Ibiam International Airport Terminal. After last year, totally reconstructing the runway, and then we were doing the terminal this year as well. We did Port Harcourt in 2018, where we started almost from scratch. So for us, we are moving, and we are moving very quickly, and the focus moving forward is really about making sure that we don't play politics with these things. If you look at what is happening very carefully, look across the Niger Delta, since we're talking about the Niger Delta now. I'm from River State. I'm proudly a son of River State. I'm proud of where I come from. I am not proud of how we have been governed. My whole thing about this is that if you look at what's going on with Akwa Ibom is a PDP state. They have delivered almost all the House of Reps, Senate seats. Everything is PDP. But because their governor has the wisdom to know that there's a time for politics and a time for governance, he comes to Abuja, works with the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Today, he has a new Ibom deep sea port that has been approved. It's undergoing construction. Okay. He just got a $1.4 billion industrial park, which is much bigger than the one we're building in Port Harcourt, because he decided to partner effectively with the federal government of Nigeria. When the time for election comes, he will still be doing this PDP thing, but he has the wisdom to know that I must do what is in the interest of my people while I'm governing. Okay. In River State, we are missing that, and we're missing it very severely.
All right, so we have just about 6 minutes. I'm going to open the phone lines now. Take one call, 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, and 0817-923-0007. We have messages that have come through the WhatsApp platform. I'm going to read one of them right now. Good morning, Jude. Even if they get it finished, I hope they do, I doubt. My question is about the security across the rail line. Now, before you answer that question, Ajiri, please hold on. Let's take a call. Hello, good morning.
Jude, good morning.
Good morning, welcome, please.
Yeah, my name is Greater Jolo Online.
Welcome. Please, very quickly with your question. We only have about 3 minutes.
Yes, I want to talk about the money recovered from Delta State that is channeled to another state for their development. Why not share the money to Delta people? The government said it's not their own.
What money is that? What money are we talking about?
The Iborilu that was returned.
Okay.
And they are using it for Lagos Ibadan Expressway.
We don't know that, but we don't. But we don't know that. But it's a question that we are going to talk about shortly. Hello, Ajiri.
Yes, my dear brother.
Okay, all right. So someone asked a question not directly linking our conversation now, but it's interesting that it's my next conversation. I don't know if you have an answer to that. He's making mention of return funds, just talking about the more recent return of the Bori funds. Yes. He says, okay, why is that money going to be used for development of other states? Why not Delta State? That's one. You don't have to answer that question because, like I said, it's not directly linking with us. But the first question has to do with the security concerns across the line. That's a very valid question, and that's coming coming in from James. I think it's James. He says, "What is going to be the problem solution there? Because everybody's worried about security across the line."
Yes, I would love to answer your question. Thank you very much. First and foremost, let me start from the Ibori loot question. Again, when you're dealing with federal crimes, the proceeds run to the federal government. That is a fact. The issue has been established. Just because previous administrations did the wrong thing, they did not abide by the law in giving those funds back to the state governors who were begging for it. That was not the way it's supposed to be done. When the crime, the violation is a federal violation of federal law, the restitution is paid to the federal government. That is not unique to Nigeria. In the United States, if you're captured in a state and you violate a federal crime, the restitution you pay is to the federal government of the United States, to the Department of Justice. You're not paying to the states. That is how these things work. That's number one. Number two, on the larger question of Delta State, let me also acknowledge the fact that the 4.2 million pounds is just part one of a two-part repatriation of Ibori loot. First one is 4.2. The second one is going to be about 100 million pounds. And it is wrong to say that it is not being applied to in the interest of Delta people, because the last time I checked, the 206 billion naira second Niger bridge links Anambra State and Delta State. So it's going to be a direct beneficiary of the use of those funds.
Okay.
But yeah, that's number two. Number three, on the issue of security that you mentioned, I think it's really very, very important that we understand that when you look at the issue of security, really you cannot have security where you have not provided the economic space for people to thrive. That's why when we continue to have, particularly in River State, we know the history we have had with security in River State in particular. When you continue to have situations where building flyovers across one or two local governments out of 23 and spending 10 million naira on live coverage so channel television will come and film people celebrating GIA roads and all of that. That is not going to create employment. What we could do with that 10 million that we're paying Channel TV for all the big live TV programs, we could be using to fund thousands of micro and small enterprises across the state.
But once again, actually, you still haven't hit the nail. People are concerned about. Well, hold on. People are concerned. People are concerned about the security along the rail lines, along the ring lines. The rail lines.
If you don't, see, as a professional host, if you don't interrupt somebody, they will be allowed to answer your question. But I have to get through A before I get to B. Where I was going is that when you provide opportunity to people, there will be less insecurity. We know that there is a direct nexus. Look at how Boko Haram started. Is it not because of the poor governance in Borno over the time when governors were becoming multi-billionaires in foreign exchange at the expense of the people that Boko Haram was born? So what I'm telling you is that there is a linkage. You deal with both of them. Trying to deal with security without dealing with the economic underlying factors is like trying to put a bandage on a gunshot wound. Will it save the person? No, you have to do surgery. So what I'm saying to you is that instead of the kind of wasteful, frivolous spending we tend to have in the Niger Delta with all these white elephant projects, if we are empowering our people and giving them opportunity, my brother, let me just say this very clearly. River State, one of the top two wealthiest states in the Federation, because of their allocations, IGR, because of the fighting of IOCs, which are massively leaving the state, because of all of that, they're very wealthy. Why are we always top two in the state of the state-by-state unemployment rankings? Why are we not creating jobs? Why is nobody asking questions? That's why River State government, with all of that money, cannot create jobs. Why are we not asking these questions?
All right. Now, once again, I don't want this. This is not a conversation about woes done or
no, it's not.
But the other wait, hold. Yes, the other part of this conversation that this person is asking is on these railway lines themselves. So let's say a line moves across the rail, the train rather is moving along the tracks up to the northern part. And Nigerian citizens are very, very skeptical about traveling up north these days, whether for business or for pleasure. He's saying in the next 2-3 years, when this is done, what is going to be the security measure across the road tracks from all the way from Damaturu to Meduguri down to Benue, down to the south. What security guarantees are there going to be that, look, maybe trains are not going to be attacked or things like that? That's the question. It's not just about the security of the equipment at the different stop stations, which you seem to have addressed, but across the lines.
Yes, no, it's a legitimate question, and that's why we're saying, look, if you look at why attacked Ajaokuta, it's a perfect case study. This is a railline that obviously, as I mentioned, is now back in operation. Without talking about who gets credit and all of that, it's back in operation. We have not had a single incident of insecurity related to that rail line. We do not have credit. See, we have problems on our roads, there's no doubt about that. How many people are standing in front of a moving train? A train is not a car. You don't put checkpoint in front of a moving train. It will smash everybody in its way. Nobody is doing that. So we have to understand the dynamics between rail transport and road transport.
Okay.
That's very, very critical.
All right, Ajuri, we have run out of time, and I dare say because of this, my next conversation on the 11 o'clock hour is all of the returned funds. I don't know if I can crave your indulgence on this matter. Maybe we can call you back and ask you a few questions at about 10 past 11 a.m. Would you be opportune to speak to us about this return loots in particular?
It's only that I'm on a call in Enugu at 11:30, but I'm your servant.
11:30. Okay, you're on a call at 11:30.
Yes,
okay.
Enugu, but if I can get closer to 11, maybe 11:45, I can probably come on.
No, I promise you, we'll call you by 5 or 10 minutes past 11. Speak to you for only 10 minutes so you can get to Enugu.
All right, let's try that.
All right, let's try that. All right, Ajuri, thank you very much. Our work is not done. The people are asking questions. The people need answers. All right, that's the media dialogue starting this morning on quite the feisty note. Phone lines buzzing. Don't worry, we have all the questions lined up for you because our next conversation has to do with stolen funds, the return. All of this and more on the midday dialogue. My name is Jude. News coming up, top of the hour.